In this week's drive, we get stacked at the back of the pack, race for 10 days to get right across Brazil, lay it down and pick up some Swedish mud, and get it all terribly wrong wearing most of England. All this and more in this week's Drive. Some of the fastest cars in the world were driven through the streets of Rotterdam recently to showcase top-line Dutch racing talent. The event was called Monaco on the Maas, after the river which flows through the town, the biggest port in the world. Sadly, the weather wasn't too friendly, but Dutch-born Chinese driver Tung was first to run with one of the BMW Williams team's FW26 cars from last year. Fans packed the streets despite the atrocious weather, which also affected the driving, sending some of the cars slightly off track. The organisers had expected 500,000 people to turn up. Worse than the weather for Tung was a mechanical failure, a broken drive shaft. He had to be pushed back to the paddock after stopping out on the circuit, but he brushed it off, saying simply that such mechanical failures sometimes happen.
It's amazing. I mean, the crowd is amazing. All the enthusiastic people around the track. Of course, I can't hear a lot of it by myself, but the sound through the streets must be amazing, I think.
Eindhoven-born Christian Albers was next on the track with a Minardi Formula One. Albers has bucked the recent trend of Formula One drivers switching to the DTM Championship after their F1 careers are over, and instead enters F1 from the German series. Albers had his first taste of success in 1997 when he was crowned the Dutch national kart champion before moving to the German Formula 3 Championship the following year. It took him just 2 seasons before he was at the top, winning the title in '99. 2003 was a successful season for the Dutchman, who finished runner-up despite scoring the most victories in DTM. He continued the next year, finishing 3rd overall. Having shown obvious talent throughout his motorsport career, Albers is looking for his debut season with Minardi in 2005 to be a step up to greater things. And the crowd certainly gave him a taste of that success after his Rotterdam lap. Another Dutch favourite, Robert Doornbos, also took part in the event. He was voted Rookie of the Year in the FIA International Formula 3000 Championship, and in 2005 he became a test driver for Jordan and now a Minardi Formula One driver. The parade had a special meaning for him since he comes from Rotterdam.
It's great. It's a dream come true already to make to have made my race debut in Formula One and to be here now with in my own city, with my own friends, fans, family, everyone. It's completely mad. It's brilliant.
Despite the weather, organisers said that 500,000 people did turn out to watch. The show also included a Porsche parade, a Dakar Rally parade and several old Le Mans classic cars. Nelson Piquet Jr. drove a Lotus 101 in a classic Team Lotus parade, and former Jordan team owner Eddie Jordan turned out to play with his band, the V10. The Williams team says it will be doing more street demonstrations in the months ahead, with plans for events in Singapore and Edinburgh. Over 250,000 fans packed the stands at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to watch the All-State 400. Elliott Sadler started from pole position and held on to take an early lead. On lap 58, Joe Nemechek ran into some bad luck. His left front tyre exploded, ripping off the entire front corner of the car and throwing debris all over the track. The mess brought out a caution flag, but more car parts went flying on the restart. Dale Earnhardt was tapped from behind by Mike Skinner, sending Earnhardt into the inside retaining wall. He was struggling along near the back of the pack when the field bunched up behind leader Casey Mears. To avoid the cars stacking up ahead, Earnhardt swerved and was tapped in the rear. Among those caught up in the mess was Earnhardt's teammate, Martin Truex. Earnhardt's frustration wasn't just the crash, it was the performance of his car. "I had a terrible race car," he said. "We tested real good, and we came here, and we've been junk."
I think maybe that was Mike Skinner automobile. He did make some contact. Already sure what happened.
Jimmy Johnson, who started the race as points leader, slammed into the wall on lap 145 when his right front tyre blew. He drove the car back to the pits, where it caught fire. Crew chief Chad Knaus climbed through the window and helped Johnson as the cockpit filled with smoke. Johnson couldn't remember steering the car to the pits following the crash and described the impact as the biggest hit he'd ever taken.
Johnson looks to be okay.
Tony Stewart, who had lost the lead to Casey Kane back on lap 134, retook the top spot after the restart, and he wouldn't relinquish it. Stewart took the checkered flag and the top spot in the points race for the first time since he won his only title in 2002. It was a fourth victory in 6 races and a 7th consecutive top 10 finish for Stewart. Earnhardt finished the race last, dropping him to 16th in the championship. Longleat is one of England's most famous stately homes and the residence of one of the country's most eccentric nobles, the Marquis of Bath. This time of year, the crowds flock to the mansion to meander along the building's ancient hallways and famous safari park. A few miles to the east is Stonehenge, a mysterious ring of huge stones erected thousands of years ago. But this year, aerobatic racing was also on the agenda with the latest round of the Red Bull Air Race World Series. This was round 5 of the 7-stage series. Just Budapest and an October stop in Los Angeles remain. And this being Britain, summer appeared to have arrived, somewhat late, but no doubt welcome to competitors who had to race at treetop height at speeds of 400 kilometers an hour. And aside from the natural obstacles, the pilots had to negotiate 11 19-meter-high inflatable pylons. Touching one resulted in a penalty. Not for the faint-hearted, but no problems, at least on the Sunday, for Mike Mangold. In front of an estimated crowd of 60,000, the American, unsurprisingly a former military Top Gun, clinched victory in a time of 2 minutes, 54.7 seconds. Mangold's compatriot, Kirby Chambliss, finished second with a time of 2 minutes, 57.6 seconds. And although the pilots made it all look easy, the rapid changes of direction required to get around the course placed a huge physical strain on all of them. Hungarian Peter Bessenye stays top of the overall rankings thanks to his third place and a time of 2 minutes 59.8.
I was going to say, I'm amazed at how well or how lucky I've been to not have any problems other than the fuel tank problem in Cashel. The engine itself's been doing great. A lot of power out there. I'm pulling 10.5 Gs and 30 inches of manifold pressure, which is a lot of power out here.
The trophies were presented by the owner of Longleat, a member of the British aristocracy who looks more like a druid from nearby Stonehenge. Trondheim, Norway's third largest city and former capital, hosted round 2 of the Class 1 powerboat season, with reigning champions Spirit of Norway in pole position and hoping to repeat their victory in the British Grand Prix for their home crowd. Norway, crewed by Bart Ecker and Steve Curtis, led Qatar 96, driven by Sheikh Hussein Al Thani and Matteo Nicolini, into the first turn. Victory 77, with Mohamed Al Mari and Jean-Marc Sanchez at the controls, came right from the back of the pack at the start to grab third place after the first turn buoy. It began to look like another victory for Spirit of Norway was in the bag, but on lap 2, the water pump failed, the vessel promptly flooded and was forced to retire. Half the field retired before the end, none more spectacularly than Qatar 95. Abdallah Al-Sulati and his throttleman, Lino DiBiase, survived an incredible barrel roll when placed 5th on lap 13. Mohamed Al Mari and Jean-Marc Sanchez took victory 77 to 2nd place. Negotiator, piloted by Chris Parsonage and Randy Sissom, was 3rd, one better than their Plymouth result. But Sheikh Hassan bin Jabor Al Thani took Qatar 96 across the finish line to win the 18-lap, 94 nautical mile Norwegian Grand Prix by 27 seconds, at an average speed of 115.98 miles an hour. Sheikh Hassan could hardly contain his excitement on the quayside. It was only the 2nd Grand Prix win of his career.
It's the most beautiful moment you can ever see. The most competitive boat, that you can ever pass, not at the turn, at the straight. Now we know that the boat has the speed and an excellent performance.
The result gives Qatar 96 38 points so far in the 7-round championship, 11 ahead of Victory 77 and 14 in front of Negotiator. The 6th stage of the Rally International dos Sertões took the competitors on a 100-kilometre race from São Félix do Tocantins to Natividade, across sandy tracks and through spectacular scenery. The 10-day event is a 4,000-kilometre odyssey through Brazil and has been called the South American Dakar Rally. In the motorcycle section, Chile's Carlo de Gavado posted his 2nd consecutive stage victory and his 3rd overall in a time of 1 hour, 4 minutes and 37 seconds. 4-time winner and defending champion Jean Azevedo of Brazil was 2nd, just 10 seconds behind. The result was good enough for Azevedo to retain his overall lead. Jose Helio Rodriguez came in 3rd, a further 4 minutes and 4 seconds back. Spaniard Marc Coma, runner-up in this year's Dakar Rally and winner of the 4th stage, was forced to retire from the event with gearbox problems. The 100-kilometre Stage 6 was much easier on all competitors than the previous day's 406-kilometre 6-hour marathon section. In the four-wheel division, driver Guilherme Spinelli and navigator Marcelo Vivolo of Brazil won their 2nd stage of the rally in their Mitsubishi. They finished the course in 1 hour, 7 minutes and 24 seconds and are now 12th overall. Marlon Curish and Josan Curish de Souza was 2nd, 1 minute and 32 seconds behind. The pairing of Eduardo Dominguez and Marcos Rogero Almeida finished the section 3rd, but retained the overall lead they claimed by having won the 5th stage. Both 2nd and 3rd place teams were driving Chevrolets. And in the trucks, driver Luciano Cunha and navigator Carlos Brites won the stage, finishing 4 minutes and 28 seconds clear of overall leaders Amabel Barraza and Jose Papacina. The 9th day of the rally took the competitors on a 141-kilometre stage from Padre Bernardo in the state of Goiás to the Brazilian capital, Brasilia. In the motorcycle class, Chilean De Gavado won his 5th stage of the competition in 1 hour, 6 minutes and 55 seconds. 4 times winner and defending champion Azevedo of Brazil claimed 2nd place, 3 minutes and 32 seconds behind, and retained his overall lead in the motorcycle section. Flavio de Carvalho came in 3rd, 6 minutes and 10 seconds behind the leader. In the cars section, driver Maurizio Neves and navigator Yusuf Haddad of Brazil won their 1st stage of the rally in a clean sweep of the top 3 places for Mitsubishi. They finished the course in 1 hour, 8 minutes and 10 seconds. Only 1 minute and 44 seconds behind the leaders came 5th placed overall duo of Clever Kolberg and Luis Palu. Rinaldo Varela and Bruno Mega remained 3rd in the overall standings after finishing 3rd on the penultimate stage. Eduardo Dominguez and Marcos Rogero Almeida placed 7th on the 9th of the rally's 10 stages and continue to lead the overall table for Chevrolet. On the last day, Jean Azevedo won the motorcycle section of the event for the 5th time, finishing 2nd in the final stage, just 51 seconds behind Carlo de Gavado of Chile. De Gavado won the 10th and final stage between Brazil's capital, Brasilia, and Goiânia in 1 hour and 40 minutes to claim 2nd place overall. Both rode Austrian-built KTMs, with Jose Helio Rodriguez Filho taking his Suzuki to third place overall. The winner finished the 4,000-kilometre marathon event in a total of 26 hours, 15 minutes and 25 seconds, more than an hour in front. In the trucks, Barassa and Papacino won the rally with second place in the last stage. Carlos Salvini and Guido Neto finished second overall after winning the final stage. Overall winners in the car section were driver Eduardo Dominguez and navigator Marcos Rogero Almeida from Chile. Their Chevrolet finished the final stage in 14th place, but was enough to retain their overall lead. They completed the racing stages of the 10-day event in 26 hours and 51 minutes. Ulysses Bertoldo and Rafael Capuani claimed second place overall, 36 minutes behind, with Ronaldo Varela and Bruno Mega third, another 14 minutes adrift. Guilherme Spinelli and Marcello Vivolo, overall victors for the last 2 years, won the last stage in their Mitsubishi by just over a minute to finish 8th overall. In fact, an unlucky rollover for car 223, crewed by William Bento and Corbin Costa in the final few kilometres, meant that the last racing section was cut short and the final checkpoint was moved down the road, to the obvious delight of the winning crew. The original finishing point was reached later and was the scene of still more celebrations. The event has been included in the World Off-Road Motorcycle Championships after satisfying the FIM that it meets all their requirements. If the FIA are impressed too, the event might become a Latin rival to the Dakar Rally. The World Speedway Series moved to Sweden for the 7th leg of the season. Tony Rickardsson brought a 54-point lead to his home Grand Prix, having won 6 of the 7 races so far this year. The Swede needed to finish ahead of reigning champ Jason Crump of Australia and Dane Nicky Pedersen to secure his 6th world title, to level with the great Ivan Major. The start of the meeting was delayed by nearly an hour because of rain, but Nicky Pedersen and Tomasz Golob were always in the thick of the action, and Pedersen actually threatened to pull out of the meeting after being controversially excluded for bringing down the pole in Heat 14.
Hello, it's Nicky here. Hello, Mike. I think you have to look in the rerun again, Mike. I mean, I don't touch Golob. I know you're Polish, but this is absolutely unfair. I didn't touch him at all, Mike. Yeah, okay, thank you.
The unlucky Golob found himself face down in the dirt for a second time in his next heat, but this time there was no blame apportioned, and all 4 riders were allowed to restart. Though he launched this year's title assault with 7 wins out of 7 heats in the opening round, Rickardsson has been less dominant since, despite the fact that he won 5 of the 6 rounds and the previous 4 in a row. He failed to win a semi-final in those previous 4 rounds, but did the business when it mattered most, winning all 4 finals. Once again, he failed to win his semi-final, but second place was enough to see him through, along with Crump, who edged him into second place in the semi-finals, along with another Australian, Lee Adams, and Sweden's Andreas Jonsson. Despite making it through, however, Rickardsson had looked some way below his best throughout the meeting, and that continued in the final. Crump passed Jonsson to take victory. Jonsson was second, Rickardsson third, and Adams fourth. Major's record of 6 world crowns, achieved between 1968 and 1979, was thought to be one that would never be broken. But Rickardsson, who won his first world title at Vogens in Denmark in 1994, is about to equal the feat and will surely go on to better it in the years ahead. Rickardsson leads the Australian by 47 points with 2 rounds remaining. He only needs 4 points from the last 2 Grand Prix, so he should wrap it up in Poland. It was a beautiful day in Southern California for the Cross Games and the Supermoto final over 45 laps. The race started on the dirt floor of the soccer stadium with 20 bikes lined up motocross style. Riders zigzagged through the whoops, climbed a steep ramp out of the stadium, hit the concrete section out in the parking lot and returned to the stadium via a freestyle kicker that would boost riders into or over a double step-up that dropped more than 100 feet to the stadium floor. Doug Henry, who took 14th in last year's inaugural Cross Games Supermoto race, pulled away from the pack early on and held on for the win. Henry was dominant late in the race and led by as much as 25 seconds at one point. Jeremy McGrath would finish strongly though and clinch the silver medal for second place, just 11.3 seconds behind Henry, with Australian Chad Reed a further 6 seconds adrift. The English are as fanatical about their motorsport as anyone else, but they go to greater lengths to invent new and bizarre ways to go racing, including using what most people regard as garden tools. The grounds of Chichester College hosted the 2005 running of the 12-hour lawnmower race, with 35 teams challenging for the most prestigious event in the lawnmower calendar. Not surprisingly, rain tipped down for part of the weekend, virtually guaranteeing that racing would be muddy, slippery and cold. At exactly 8 p.m, the drivers and their teams of pushers charged and slithered across the muddy track to their machines for the traditional Le Mans-style start. There were 3 categories. Group 2 are traditional mowers with a seat attached, Group 3 are ride-on buggies, and Group 4 are the large tractor-style machines. Naturally, they all have their blades removed for safety. In addition, they have lights, batteries and charging systems fitted for nighttime racing. Funny that no one seems to have thought of adding mudguards and windscreens too. The condition of the track deteriorated rapidly. While most drivers were charging as hard as they could go in the conditions, there was at least one team who seemed more intent on maintaining an appearance than a race position. Lurid opposite lock slides proved that most drivers were trying hard, often too hard, if not to win, at least to entertain the few die-hard spectators, who were mostly only there because they were related to someone else in the race anyway. With 12 hours of hard racing, the teams all had 3 drivers working in shifts, with changeovers in the pit lane to keep them all fresh and clean for a while. As night fell, the mowers continued to race through the gloom. The lights gave the event even more of a Le Mans atmosphere. Indeed, the first ever winners of the race back in 1978 were 5 times Le Mans winner Derek Bell and Formula One legend Sterling Moss. The event is as much about endurance as speed, with the first challenge simply to keep the mowers running for a full 12 hours. Keeping them pointed in the right direction helps too. When the sun rose on Sunday morning, most of the competitors were still running, although some of the pit crew were snatching some well-earned sleep. The pit lane was still a hive of activity as drivers came in for refueling, driver changeovers and repairs. As 8 a.m. approached, the drivers were coming to the end of a grueling 12 hours on a difficult and bumpy track. There was a clear winner in mower number 44, Team Accident Prone Racing, with drivers Jeremy Eldridge, Matt Hunt and Pete Ramsey completing 340 laps of the 800-metre circuit at an average speed of more than 20 miles an hour, 15 laps ahead of their nearest rival. They say they're going to retire, but don't bet against them being back again next year. So, whether you're rolling in the bay, buzzing an ancient monument, or just jumping through a stadium, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.